Okay.
So, welcome everybody. We got a very special meeting tonight. We are privileged to be joined by Bill Virdon, former Houston Astros manager. I remember you well, Bill. My first memories of being a Houston Astros fan. You were the manager, so. I was born in the early 70s, so by the time I really got into baseball, you were the Astros manager. So you are my first Astros manager, Bill. So we also have Larry Dierker here tonight. We have quite a few people. We have Tal, Chris. So what I thought we would do tonight is really before we get started, I'll just make a couple of announcements very quickly. First off, Bob is here, our chapter president, but he is not in town. He is, do you mind, I hope you don't mind me saying, Bob, but he is away celebrating his 60th wedding anniversary with his wife.
Wow.
So I think we should say congratulations to Bob and Peggy. So,
Bill probably has that beat.
It'll be 70 this November.
All right.
70. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, most definitely. Our next meeting will be held June 14th at the Skeeters at the Sugar Land ballpark. And I'm going to have Mike McCroskey talk about that for a second. We're going to have a scheduled event. So, Mike, if I'm going to turn it over to you for a second so you can talk about it and how people can get involved with the event next month.
Well, I haven't bought the tickets yet. We need a minimum of 20 people. Now, Bob had some names, but I've got, if Bob and I both go and take our wives, that's 4. Cheryl Zanes for 3, that's 7. Lucia Rodriguez at 4, that's 11. Scott McKay at 2, that's 13. Joe Thompson, you did yours today, that's 15. And Carl Owens talked to me today, that's 16. So Bob had a few more. We may be at 20 already.
Marina and I'll go.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But
Yeah,
it'll
what's the
be,
date again?
Monday the 14th. We have no regular, we tried to get it as close to our meeting day, which was the third Monday. So we're doing it on the second Monday. And Bob's already sent out my address. So it looks like we've got plenty of people to go, and ticket price was on Bob's letter, and just send me the tickets and the name of the people. And if they're not coming with you, because usually I get them to put the name on the envelope so you can go pick them up. So like if you've got 2 people meeting you. And
June 14th.
14th.
Okay, I can do that.
And what's included, Mike, with the ticket price?
I'll go.
Well,
I'll
it'll
come
be
with
up
Linda.
in the home plate suite area where the bar is, and they have a buffet meal with roast beef, and you get a salad, and a couple of real nice iced tea, mixed drinks aren't included or not included, but and then you can go out right front and sit and watch the game, and you get ice cream dessert in the 5th inning.
Right.
The Astros don't have Margarita Monday like the Skeeters used to have. I suppose it probably can be traced back to the problems they used to have with nickel beer night decades ago. So they don't encourage the drinking. I suppose they could get sued for encouraging people to over imbibe. And having gone to one Margarita Monday, I'm not going to miss this one. My wife and I decided we couldn't do that again. So, and that's about it. The ball game. I was talking to Deacon to see if he could do anything for us before he started telling me about his heart attack. Before the game, we can't tour because both the dugouts will be there. We might be able to get a speaker. It depends on the COVID restrictions. Al Deacon might speak to us, but I know that he's been telling me they've enlarged the restrooms, they put a batting cage downstairs, they've changed some of the stuff in the outfield, so it's a lot different the fields that they've changed, they resodded the whole field, so it's quite a bit different from the Skeeters field we saw last year.
Good.
Plus, they got better players,
Yeah,
and they're playing the Rangers form team, so
that's right. They're playing the round ones. Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna have a AAA silver boot or what, but anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Also, we were talking a little bit before the meeting started, and Bob, we can go ahead and tell everybody we're going to be back at Spaghetti Western in July.
Yeah, we're going to make every effort to see if we can get back in there. They are operating and will welcome us back. As you know, they only hold 40 people, so we'll be a little bit close together, but I think it'll be fun. And we'll start on that, whatever that third Monday is in July.
Okay. And we can still keep the Zoom going. I'll be there, and I can still keep the Zoom going if you can't be in town. So, I'll send out an invite and everything. But yeah, we would like for everybody to get back together, so it'll be great. But okay, I got that out of the way. So now for the main event, batting leadoff, I would like to introduce David Jerome and with his very special guest, former Houston Astros manager Bill Virdon. So David, I will turn it over to you guys. So if you can tell us a little bit about, kind of what your book's about or something, a little bit, or, just however you and Bill want to handle this.
Okay, first of all, we appreciate the opportunity to be with you all tonight, and Bill and Shirley have been looking forward to this event, and we're in their home in Springfield, Missouri, their beautiful home that they've lived in since December of 1960. They've been in this home since 2 months after the 1960 World Series. That's when they moved up from West Plains, Missouri, and they've been in Springfield ever since. So it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be writing, to be a part of this project that Bill and Shirley have allowed my wife and I to be a part of. The idea of this book started back in November of 2019. And I was actually driving up to Columbia, Missouri and through the Lake of the Ozarks region. And it dawned on me that there's not a book about Bill Virdon. And so I got on my phone, which you shouldn't do when you're driving. And I called the seniors director at the church. And I was the associate pastor at Bill and Shirley's church at this time. And that's how my wife and I came to know them. And I asked Rick if anybody had done anything or tried to do anything, and he said he didn't think so. I said, well, how about me? Could you run it by him? And he did, and they came back and they appeared to be interested. And so in January of 2020, we officially kicked off this book project with our first interview in their home. And we've been working on it ever since. Of course, COVID kind of derailed us for about 3 months, March, April, and May. And then in late June, we resumed social distancing and everything else. We resumed with our interviews, and we've been moving along ever since. So we've got 8 chapters done. I started out with the 1960 World Series. That was a lot of fun to write. And then we went into his last 5 years as a player with the Pirates. And then as his time as a coach, first of all, as a manager in the Mets organization in New York and in Florida, and then back as a player coach in 1968 with the Pirates, and then up through the 1971 World Series. And then Danny Murtaugh stepped aside again, and Bill was hired to be the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates going into the 72 season. He would leave the Pirates in late 73. And he was destined to go to Denver, a Houston Astros affiliate, and the Denver Bisons, and manage that team. And then at the winter meetings, things started turning around. I think the winter meetings were in Houston that year. Things started turning around a little bit. And in early January, he accepted being manager of the New York Yankees. and he was there until August 1st, 75. Tal Smith was also in the organization in the executive suite, and he left to go back to Houston to become the general manager of the Astros. And a couple of weeks later, Bill was called to ask if he'd be interested in being the manager of the Houston Astros, and he accepted. And I had the honor of interviewing Tal Smith twice. I've interviewed Larry Dierker, Enos Cabell, Craig Reynolds, and Kenny Hand for the Houston chapter. Separately, when I was talking to Tal and when I talked to Bill, they both said the same thing. We were probably the closest general manager duo in Major League Baseball, probably up to that point and maybe since that point. So it'd be interesting to know if there's a relationship that was as close as the Virdon-Smith relationship was in Houston. So if anybody's got anything to add to that, I'd be interested to know about it. Bill and Tal took over a team in the fall of 75 that was 43 and a half games out of first place, the worst record in the National League. And there's only one team in Major League Baseball that had a worse record, and that was the Detroit Tigers. They had not, I know Max likes that. They had kind of suffered since they started as the Houston Colt 45s back in 62, and they were financially struggling by the time Tal and Bill came on board, and they would for a couple more years, but they put together a really good team in a very short order, and by 79 they had a pretty good team going for themselves. And in 80 it was a remarkable year for the Astros. It was the first time in the franchise history that the Astros made it to the NLCS, excuse me. And it was an LCS for the records, obviously, against the Philadelphia Phillies. It went all 5 games. 4 of the 5 games went into extra innings. It was probably the most closely combated duo in National League history as far as the NLCS was concerned. They didn't quite make it. As it turned out, the Phillies would go on and play the Kansas City Royals that year in the World Series. Bill would stay on until 82. He was removed by Al Rosen in 82, had come on as the general manager. Bill wouldn't be without a job for long. He would be signed by the Montreal Expos on October 12th. Then him and John McHale would fly down together from Montreal, and they would attend the World Series together in St. Louis. Bill would start his first year as a manager of the Expos, and this would be his last assignment as a manager of Major League Baseball. 83 was a disappointing year. It could have been better. The players could have been maybe produced a little bit better than they did. And then in 84 was not a good year at all. They had a lot of struggles going on in the clubhouse and on the field that Bill had a hard time, quite frankly, getting his hands around. And so he was released, and someone asked him, I think, a reporter asked him, said, Bill, do you have any interest of ever managing again? And he said, well, I don't think so. He said, unless Larry Dierker's involved. Excuse me, not Larry Dierker, but Tal Smith, if he's involved, he would consider it. I'm not sure what just happened here.
Hey, David, I just pushed
Hey, Larry, can you quit sharing your screen, Larry?
I think something just happened.
What, Bob?
Here, hold on. There we
There
go.
we go. There we go.
Now we're back. And so, as it turned out, Bill would basically come home to Springfield after the 84, late in the 84 season. And he would work on his cabin up Pomme de Terre Lake, north of Springfield a little bit, working around that area. He had other things to do, played a little golf. And in 86, he got back into coaching with the Pirates under Jim Leland. And he was with Jim for a while. in the Pirates organization. And then somewhere along the line in late 96, I think Tal Smith had called him up to see if he'd be interested in coming back. And Tal, if this is wrong, please let me know. You were there, I wasn't. That there's going to be another gentleman who's going to manage the Astros in 97. I think he was a sportscaster at the time, and I think he had been a former pitcher for the Astros at the time, earlier on. And I think the sportscaster was surprised about why he came in into the executive suite that day. And I think it was broken to him pretty suddenly that they wanted him to be the new manager. And he was assured that Bill Virdon would be on the bench with him. And I think that made Larry Dierker feel a little bit better. Is that right, Larry?
Well, that was really important to me because I was not naive enough to think that I could go down there and sell myself to a bunch of players that were playing in a total different generation from my days on the field. It was 18 years, and I knew the credibility would be the first thing that I needed to establish. And when Tal told me he thought that Bill would be willing to come down and help me, what I felt was that was instant credibility because of his history as a player, as a manager, and because he was really the best standard I could use from my playing days is what would be a model of a good manager. And basically, you would think this is easy, but it's not. And that is to be honest. Sometimes you might get yourself sideways with some of the players if you're too honest. But I found that most of my managers before Bill, in one way or another, got themselves caught in that trap. And I tried not to. I got caught in it myself, even though I tried not to. But having Bill, really, it made it possible for me to think that I could come down there, having been gone so long, and still get the players' attention and do a good job. And he stepped in for me a couple of times when I was kind of at a loss for words and really held things together. Bill, I know you're not one to get overly enthusiastic, but I can't thank you enough for that. And Shirley,
Yes.
Shirley, I still know what you're doing. I see you on Facebook.
Well, I think Bill thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll let you speak to your time with Larry.
Well, thank you, Larry. Good to see you. I've been happy to be alive. I'm not missing baseball now. I just like watching it.
Did everybody hear Bill okay?
Yeah, we can hear Bill.
Good. Excellent.
But Bill has been a part of baseball for so long that he's actually gone through a lot of changes in the game, not just structurally. I mean, there have been expansions, and of course the Expos were an expansion team, so were the Astros. So he was around on the field when expansion happened, but also just the nature of the game. People are surprised when they see that I pitched a lot of complete games, but the pitchers that came in the generation prior to me pitched just as many or more. And now hardly anyone pitches a complete game. So he's watched that happen in terms of theory of pitching, but also the theory of scoring, where I think it was more power oriented a little bit in the 50s, but Bill and Dick Grote played hit and run more times than it will be played in total this whole season by all 30 teams, because they don't hit and run anymore. The bunt was a big play when you needed one run, because oftentimes one run late in the game would decide the game. And now You know, if you have a little guy that can bunt and is a singles hitter and he's up there in the 8th inning, as I saw one Astros game a couple of years ago, they pinch hit this guy, Tony Kemp. He was a pretty good bunter and a fast runner. First and second, nobody out in a tie game, 8th inning. He swung so hard at the first pitch, he fell down. And so, you know, the game is different now than the game that Bill played and the game that I played. I don't think it's that interesting. And the athletes may be stronger, faster, and all that, but I don't think it's as interesting a game. What do you think, Bill?
I think he's right. I've never argued with Larry. He's always been right too.
Yeah, Brownie.
Hey, Dirk.
One of the things that I found most remarkable
Old
about
Timers Day on our computer.
I was always impressed doing my research how of Bill's athleticism, even going back to high school. It's been remarkable, his speed and his strength and his ability to play about any sport he wanted to. He started out with basketball and football and track and field in high school. They didn't have baseball at West Plains, organized baseball in West Plains, Missouri, when he was in high school there. So he just picked up sandlot type baseball as much as he could because that was his first love. He was born in Michigan, and his dad took him to his first baseball game, I think, when he was 10 days old. And see the
I don't
Detroit,
remember.
I don't think Bill remembers much about that. It's the Detroit Tigers, and over time during the 30s, Bill became a fan of Hank Greenberg's. Hank Greenberg, as some of you may know, you historians, had a remarkable year in 38. I believe he was the MVP that year. He was a good role model for a young boy, 8 years old, sitting in the stands and watching him. But Bill played basketball. He played football. He was the starting quarterback his junior year, having never played football before. There was only one coach at West Plains, and Bill had his eye starting his sophomore year, and he put him on basketball team and on the football team and put him on the track and field team. University of Missouri Columbia wanted him to be a quarterback, wanted him to play football at college, and Bill didn't do that. He had a basketball scholarship at Drury University. Back then it was Drury College. But in August of 1949, after coming back in from Clay Center, Kansas, and playing his second year in amateur baseball, only his second year of having played organized baseball, the New York Yankees, Tom Greenway, signed him to his first baseball contract. And back then, he didn't get a signing bonus then and there, but he got an $1,800 signing bonus, which is about $21,000 today. But he went ahead and fulfilled his commitment to Drury College that fall and played his only semester of college basketball. And then in January, he had his eyes on joining the Independence Yankees in Independence, Kansas. And and he would never turn back from baseball at that point. So that was kind of the genesis. And that was a fun chapter to write, I don't mind telling you. Shirley, what did you think about your baseball career with your husband?
Well, it's been probably a different life than I would have had from little Neelyville, Missouri, and had I not met him. But
they knew each other 6 weeks before they got married, by the way, in the fall of 51. And somehow it's worked for almost 70 years now.
Yeah.
well, my students introduced us, and they still brag about introducing us and that we've been married so long. And I've enjoyed it because I've been a baseball fan all my life. My dad played what they called town ball then, and I guess I got to go when I was just a tiny baby because they played on Sunday afternoons. And so mother would take me and we'd sit, watch. I don't remember it, of course, but And then, of course, when I was old enough, while we started going to St. Louis to see the Cardinals play, the St. Louis Browns. And my brother was a fan of the Browns, and we had a few fights, especially in Wrigley Field after the All-Star game one year. The American League won, and my brother gave me that little snide grin after the game as we were walking out of Wrigley, and the fight was on.
It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine that because her brother Ronnie is one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet.
Yes, he
And
is.
he is a great high school coach.
Yes. Yes.
David, you keep going in and out, David.
Okay. Yeah, have you been hearing Shirley okay?
Yeah, we hear Shirley fine, but you keep going in and out. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay.
Back to that
Yeah.
play.
I'm gonna let Shirley continue then.
Well, and so anyway, I guess I was just made to be a baseball wife from the beginning. I just didn't know it for a long time. But it's been a good life for both of us. We haven't regretted two times.
Who said that?
Yeah, go ahead, Shirley. I'm sorry.
We met some wonderful people throughout this time, and then we have some that are still lasting through the years, and we've tried to keep together, but we haven't seen each other for a while. Tal and Johnnie Smith and their family, but we stay together on Facebook I do with Valerie, so we stay in touch. It's been a good life. I don't regret any of it. There were a few times I would have liked a big W instead of a L.
I've been so busy. Can you hear me all right, Joe? Can you hear me?
Hey, so David, it might just be you moving the computer. If you could just put it on the table or something, the way you had it, and maybe.
All right, let me try it now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're in front, you should be fine. Yeah. Or something like that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're kind of muffled a little bit. But we can hear Shirley and Bill just fine. You keep going in and out though.
I've been so busy writing the last several months. I never really thought about seeking a publisher until rather recently. And I have to tell you, I have to thank Tal Smith and Marty Appel for giving me some guidance in that area. Because last month I was signed by.
Can't really hear you, David. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. There you are.
Okay. I know this is a shock for me to all of a sudden present my face to everybody, but anyway, I've been so busy writing over the last several months and really never thought about a publisher until rather recently. And I reached out to Tal Smith and Marty Appel, and they both gave me wonderful suggestions on how to pursue that. And they suggested one publisher in particular, both of them did, and that was McFarland and Company Publishing. And that's who signed me last month to this project. So it's due to the publisher by the 30th of September, and we're making really good progress. Just finished the 8th chapter, like I said. I got another one to go from 55 to 59. And then we're going to jump forward to 86 to the Jim Leland years, and then finish out the book with the later years in baseball. So we should have it done well ahead of schedule. But anyway, I just want to thank Tal Smith personally and Marty Appel as well for their wonderful guidance.
If I can interject for a minute? This is Tal.
Go ahead, Tal.
I want to say hello to Shirley and to Bill. St. Johnny's on this call. She's enjoying it. And I want to thank David for the excellent synopsis of his book. I've enjoyed discussing Bill and Shirley and their life and their career. And and we look forward to the publishing of the book, which I think will be well received by everybody. It's a delight. It's a delight to see Bill and Shirley. I wish it was in person, but under these circumstances, I guess we have to settle for this. And I just want to thank them for many memorable years, and Bill for just a wonderful job with those memorable years with the Astros.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cal.
Hey, Mike, you have your hand up. Did you have a question or something?
I do. That's why I raised my hand. I wanted to ask Bill, if I'm correct, he and Wally Moon won back-to-back Rookie of the Years for the Cardinals. And I know they had a special relationship because they honored Bill at a baseball dinner sometime in the 2000s, and I was surprised to see Wally Moon at that same dinner. So, and that was like 50 years later, he showed up because you were being honored, Bill. So I just wondered if you might let us know how that relationship developed through the years. I know Wally died a couple of years ago. He spoke to our chapter once, and I really enjoyed meeting him, but y'all had a special friendship, didn't you?
Yeah, we got along very well. Wally was a good player. He moved to left field. I moved to center field. And he had been there and been successful before I moved in. And I think he was a little surprised that he had to move, but he didn't object, never said a word, never objected to it. And we went on from there and we stayed friends.
Well, I first encountered Wally Moon with the Dodgers, and the moon shots over that high screen in left field at the LA Coliseum when I was a young guy growing up, and then got to know him later through coming in different things involved with baseball after his career and after mine. You two guys must have been something together. I'd like to have seen that.
Hey, Jason, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if, hi, everybody. I was wondering if Mr. Virdon, upon taking the Astros job, were you keenly aware of, I guess, the talent that was coming up? And it seems as though it seemed to build one season after the next. Was there a point that you said to yourself, we may have something here? Or were you pretty much, I guess, in tune to what Tal was doing, and you felt that there was a chance that you could really make some noise in the league?
Well, I think after the first year, I realized that we had some talent. Going in, I had no idea.
Pretty bleak.
And then in 1976, you have the rain in, and surely that was a bit of a harrowing episode for you. Am I correct?
That's true. Our daughter was a spacette, and she had to be there for the game at, I believe, 4:00 in the afternoon prior to a night game. And so we lived out, in past Memorial. And so I was bringing her in to the ballpark, and we got to the exit and we couldn't get off because it was closed. And I sat there 5.5 hours. My daughter decided to wade out and go to the ballpark because we were within sight of the dome, but we couldn't get there with the car. So I was afraid to leave the car on top of the viaduct there. And so I stayed in it, and Lisa went after and went in, waded through, and then finally she came out with Bill to get me. And I had to leave that car there all night long, and it worried me to death because Houston traffic was pretty bad then. I don't know what it's like now, but
It's
I was
worse.
frightened to
Worse.
there, but we did, and we got it the next morning about 9:30 or 10, and it was okay. So, and I didn't have any tickets on it.
One of the great things about being involved in baseball is what Shirley just did, was telling a story.
Yep.
So
that's
when
right.
we get together, there's no telling where it'll go, and you remember stories that you've forgotten about, and everybody starts laughing. In some cases, it's the same story, but it never gets old. And the one that Bill told me that first spring when we were together, it was on a day when it was raining real hard, and we were trapped in the batting cages. And he started talking about the first time he saw Mickey Mantle. And I wonder if do you remember that story, Bill, about playing center field when he was hitting?
Well, I probably told you, I know I'm not gonna make this club. I saw him play and I said, ooh, nobody's that good.
Hit one over your head.
We were just.
Do what?
Oh,
Oh,
I said he hit one over your head. As I recall, he hit one over your head. You took 2 or 3 steps, and there was no sense chasing it. And then he was running around the bases later on, kicking up dirt. You'd never seen anybody run that fast.
well, when that ball went over my head, I looked up and it was about 50 feet over my head, and I was already at the wall. And
That was at Forbes Field during the World Series.
yeah.
But Bill actually encountered Mickey Mantle in 1949 down in Branson, Missouri. In 1950, starting on April 1st, when the Independence Yankees went over there for spring training. Well, the Joplin team also went over there for spring training, and that's the team that Mantle was on. And they would have played each other in a game. And Bill said he saw a pretty impressive hit that day from Mantle, or during that time with Mantle as well.
I'm glad you told that story. I don't remember.
Hey, Bill, also in 1979, there's also another major flooding issue here in Houston. And a couple of the players arrived via helicopter. Was that Tal who did that? And were you involved in that at all? The decision to bring in some players via helicopter to the Astrodome?
I don't know who did it.
That was Tal. I don't remember it. I was there in '79 as a broadcaster.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Tal, you're on mute. Hey, Tal, you're on mute. We can't hear you, Tal.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, sir.
I started to say, I've just got a faint recollection of that now that Jason brings it up. And I forget what the circumstances were, but we had to rush a player to Houston. I think as a result of injury. I thought it was an emergency situation. For some reason, I thought it was a catcher. But I'll have to go back really and see if I can find something. I'd forgotten all about that, but as Dirk said, there's a lot of stories. Jason brings it up, and then that'll lead to other things. I'll be curious to see if I can find the answer. I recall going out to the Astrodome parking lot, which they were using as a landing pad, and meeting the helicopter and the player. Unfortunately, at the moment, I just can't recall who it was. But
I see. I've got the
thanks
picture.
for bringing that up, Jason. Well, you must have done some research to find it.
I have the picture here. It's Enos Cabell and Cesar Cedeno arrive at the Astrodome by helicopter for their game with Los Angeles.
Okay, I'd forgotten that.
Those 2 guys could have done it.
Yeah.
Likely suspects.
they probably did it on their own. You know,
Thank you.
Hey, Max has got a question, and then Tony. Max and Tony.
Thank you, Joe. And Mr. and Mrs. Virdon, thank you for being here with us. Nice to finally meet you, David Jerome. My question for Mr. Virdon, your first year managing the Pittsburgh Pirates, 1972, was the final year of my favorite player of all time, Roberto Clemente Walker. And the reason I always wore 21. You managed him for his 3,000th hit, and then sadly showed up at spring training 1973 when Roberto had left us in a plane crash the year before. What were your impressions of managing Roberto Clemente?
I'm sorry.
What were your impressions of managing Roberto Clemente?
Well, it was a pleasure to be able to do it because he could play so well. He did everything. He ran the bases, played the outfield, got his hits, and it's hard to be beside him, but I was glad to be able to do it.
Can I add a little bit to that, if you don't mind, Joe? And Max, in doing my research, Roberto and Bill got to the Pirates about the same time. He was from Puerto Rico. He couldn't speak the language very well. He was a person of color as well. And he had some challenges, both on and off the field. But I would submit that that center fielder, with the number of assists that he had and his range factor, benefited Roberto in right field as it would Skinner in left field. And so certainly Roberto Clemente is a remarkable player. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think the person playing to his right also assisted him a great deal throughout his playing career, because they played together for 10 years before Bill would become his coach and then his manager. So they knew each other very, very well. But Bill would never take anything away from Roberto Clemente's talent. But Bill had a lot to do, I think, I would submit, to his development over the years.
Good. Tony?
Don't say anything.
Oh, yes. I'm trying to figure out how to unmute it.
Oh, you're unmuted. We can hear you.
Okay. Oh, good. Well, that's a surprise. I was wondering how the Pirates were able to beat the Yankees in the '60 World Series. The Yankees scored a gazillion number of runs, and it still wasn't enough. I wonder if it was just some sinister force at work there against the Yankees. But Bird made some wonderful catches in center field for the Pirates.
Pardon me?
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, you'll say that. I don't know.
In game one, that's the one where him and Roberto Clemente are going after a Yogi Berra hit.
Yeah.
That's the one that there's a statue of Bill at the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. It's called The Catch. And that's the one that's probably the most memorable. But Bill would tell you probably in game four, Bob Serve is at bat, and Bill's out there by himself making this catch. And that's another fantastic catch in game four that Bill would have made. And he made several. In fact, Casey Stengel would say after the series was over, was that center fielder gave us a hard time all year. Well, I don't know why he said all year, but he meant to say all series. But Casey Stengel said that center fielder made it hard on us all year.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talking about
good
Mickey
with names.
Mantle. He wasn't talking about Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, I read that somewhere that somebody says, I forget where, that Mazeroski is known for the home run in '60. But there's a lot of people who think that the way Bill played in the '60 World Series did more harm to the Yankees than anything else.
I agree.
So,
Especially in the fourth game of the World Series, Bill was instrumental on both sides of the ball. Played. He was defensive, obviously worked out very well, but he also made some timely clutch hits as well that made the big difference in the outcome of that fourth game.
yeah. Hey, Yeah, I read, Bill, if you don't mind talking about it, you and David, I heard that your big break, I read somewhere else, your big break, or you say your big break to getting in the major leagues was during spring training in '54, where you were at a Yankees practice and you ended up fielding a ball and hitting Casey Stengel in the back of the head. And you think it's probably your biggest break?
I did that, but I didn't hit him in the back of the head. I hit him in the back.
Oh, okay.
7.
Okay.
I just come in and made a bad throw to the relay guy and went over his head. Stengel happened to be walking behind the infield, checking his infielders out, and I whacked him with the ball. Down he went. Anyway, in a game, you might get somebody out.
Of course, Mickey Mantle, Hank Bauer, Gene Woodling, and probably one other person was out there. They were taking turns catching these fly balls from a coach. And of course, when Bill did that, they all sat down on the turf and pointed up at Bill to indicate to Whitey after he got up and dusted himself off. He said he did it. And actually, they said, "You just killed Casey Stengel. You just killed Casey Stengel." About 2 weeks later, Bill found out he had been traded to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, but you would win Rookie of the Year the next year, right? With the Cardinals?
Kicking.
Okay, we got some.
He had his best year in professional baseball that year in Rochester, New York, with the Red Wings. He batted .333, had 22 home runs. He had a remarkable year in Rochester, and he went to Cuba that fall and played winter ball with the likes of Ken Boyer and others. He caught the attention of a scout from the St. Louis Cardinals home office, and they did compare him to Wally Moon. In fact, Bobby Bragan down there basically said he is faster and he can hit better than Wally Moon. And so when he came up after Cuba winter ball to Florida for spring training, he made the roster of a Major League Baseball team and never looked back. Never went back to the minors.
We got a question from Jim. Jim, you want to ask your question?
Sure, thanks, Joe. Mrs. Virdon, when you attended games at Forbes Field to watch your husband play, who did you usually sit next to?
Oh, I sat with the wives, of course, and when Bill was playing, and then it varied when he was managing. I really liked sitting in the stands and with all of the others, and so I didn't really have a choice as to who I would sit with. Many times I sat with Joanne Wright, who Mel Wright was pitching coach, and we were longtime friends because we met in Binghamton, New York in third year of professional ball, but my first year. And so I tried to always be friendly with all of the wives. There were certainly wives who were, in my opinion, nicer and more fun to be around, but none of them were really too bad to be around, and I always found something good about them.
Did you have
I'm curious
couple of
about something.
wives that were your favorites to sit next to?
Pardon?
Who were your favorites to sit next to?
Well,
Tal, you're muted again.
I of course love to sit with Johnnie Smith. We sat together a lot about every game. Well, we had lots to talk about, you know that. And when Bill was managing.
Hey, if you hold on a second, Shirley.
Yes.
Hi, Shirley.
Hey, Johnny.
Oh, look
Shirley.
at you.
Oh, it's a great, we had a great relationship and so much fun all the time.
Yes. Yes. Playing.
Johnny, you met Shirley for the first time, I understand, at the winter meetings in December of '73. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were at
Do
the
you
winter
recall-
meetings and she and I started talking and I said, oh, this is such a shame that you're going one direction and we're going another. And because we just have so much to talk about. And so it was shortly that things did change and we were together for quite a long, long time. And not only in baseball, but personally. And I love her dearly. And so Bill, and we do have just a very, very close feeling, and it transcends baseball and all other things. But baseball was the thing that brought us together.
I have a friend here in Springfield who has written some books, and he's a big Royals fan. And his big thing is saying that baseball brings people together. And he tries to emphasize that every time you talk to him. And his name is Ethan Bryan. You may see he's written several books now. And but it's so good to see you, Johnny. We seen each other in a long time. Can't hear it, isn't she? I don't know. I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes, I can now.
Can you
Yes.
see me now?
I can. Can you see me?
Yes, I can. And it's so wonderful to see you. We
Well,
should do
good.
FaceTime or something more often.
I know. We're interfering with the boys, but
I was just going to warn everybody. This.
Go ahead, Tal.
I was going to warn everybody.
Well,
Bill and I are used to Shirley and Johnnie talking on the phone for several hours. And if there's a call, Bill and I speak for a few minutes early on, turn the phone over to them and go to bed.
but we got to see Bill Brown the other day and Diane. They came by.
I know. Great picture.
Oh, well, thanks. I forgot about the picture.
I'm not mistaken. Bill's on this call, isn't he? Brownie, aren't you here?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, where are you, Brownie?
Yeah, Bill was here. I don't know what happened.
Must have had to leave.
Maybe he'll come back.
Maybe.
Not here anymore.
Now, did I answer the question or not?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Bob, did you have a question for Bill?
It's Danny Gallagher here.
Oh, Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, look at Bill. I just wanted to say, if you didn't know, that you're the oldest surviving Expos manager at this time. It's a testament to your pretty good health. And Bill, I have a question. Of all the Expos that you dealt with in '83 and '84, or even before you arrived in Montreal, who is the best Expos player you ever saw or managed?
Well, I got to think about it.
Probably not going to be Pete Rose.
I have to stop and think who was there.
Well, Steve Rogers was there. Gary Carter was the catcher. And you had Dawson, Andre Dawson. You had Al Oliver. You had Tim Raines.
Tim Raines.
You had Terry
No.
Francona. Terry Francona was there.
Well, I think the best one was Dawson.
Okay.
Hall
Pretty
of
good.
Famer.
Pardon me?
He's at the Hall of Fame. Dawson is.
Yeah, he never complained about much. Always did what he was asked to do, and he did it well. He had a right fielder's arm, that's for sure, because Bill moved him from center field to right field, and it was probably the best move that he could have made for the team at the time. I like that picture there, Max.
Thank you.
Bill Staples, you have a question for Bill?
I do. Thank you. So I'll just read the question I put in the chat. So I'm currently writing the biography of Chet Brewer for the SABR Bio Project, and I know that Chet was a longtime scout for the Pirates. So I'm curious if Bill was friendly with Chet, and if so, do you have any stories you could share about Chet Brewer? I know he influenced a lot of the players with the Pirates, and even the Astros, Enos Cabell and Bob Watson.
Name?
Say the name again, please, Bill. Bill, can you repeat the name again?
Chet Brewer, famous Negro League pitcher, scout for the Pirates.
Well, I know the name.
Okay,
I can't
that's
tell
fine.
you.
Not everybody knows Chet Brewer. That's okay.
Just know who he was.
Okay.
And I thank you for reminding me how good he was.
All right. Hey, I've got a backup question then. Are you the only manager in Major League history to complete a lineup card for a player who got his 3,000 hit and then another player who got his 4,000 hit? Rose? I can't think of, I mean, Connie Mack's got to be the only one because Ty Cobb's the only other 4,000 hit. And I can't think of a 3,000 hit player that he filled out a lineup card for. So it's good trivia right there for all your favorite guys.
Sorry, I can't help.
Well, you are, as far as I know. So congrats.
Well, perhaps Ty Cobb filled out the lineup card for himself.
Maybe he did. Thank you.
Let me see here. Does anybody have anything else?
Are there any questions about how anything about any surprises and what we found and doing the research? I think there's some more questions coming up.
Yeah, I actually had a follow-up. I noticed that so many managers who played Bill Virdon or players went on to become managers. So Bruce Bochy, Art Howe. There's probably a longer list. Doug Radar, I believe, Larry Dierker.
Terry Francona.
I'm sorry?
Terry Francona.
Oh, Terry Francona and Pete Rose. So did you inspire these players in any way to go on and manage?
Well, I hope I
Yes,
did.
I'll answer that
Oh,
question.
I just tried to tell them to do what they were supposed to do.
I believe Larry Dierker feels strongly about that.
Yes, I do. I feel strongly personally, and I think it probably was, I think he had an influence on anybody that he managed because, pardon my French, it was no bullshit. You know, it was just baseball. It was honest, it was solid, and it never varied. If you were in a losing streak and everybody was down, it was the same if you were a winning streak. It wasn't too wild and crazy. It was just, you know, put your head down and go. You've got 162 games, you got 6 months to do it. And I don't think anybody could have played on his teams without coming away with that ethic of the way you're supposed to approach a season day by day throughout the whole summer. And so, and for me, probably the guy that did the best job with that was Bruce Bochy. And Bruce was just a backup catcher for the most part with Bill, but he was on the team all year for a couple of years, and he saw how it was done, and he did it pretty damn well himself.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Lou Piniella made a comment back in 1978 that Bill Virdon was responsible for turning the Yankee team around when he was the manager there in 74 and 75. When Bill went to the Yankees in 74, that first spring training surprised a lot of the veterans on that team. They actually had to work hard during spring training, and they really didn't think that they needed to do that because of who they were. But the Yankees hadn't done very well over the previous 10 years. And Bill kind of whipped him into shape, and he worked him hard with that fungo bat, and he wouldn't let him ease up on running to first base. He wanted him to run every play out because, like Bill found out in the bottom of the 8th inning in the World Series, when he hit Tony Kubek in the throat, if he hadn't run that ball out, history could have been a lot different for the Pirates. And because of the inning kept on going. And so I think he kind of remembered that when he instilled speed, consistency, the fundamentals of baseball, even on veterans in the Yankee organization. Thurman Munson and others didn't really, Thurman Munson worked hard anyway. He really didn't need to be told to work hard because he worked hard all the time. But others wasn't expecting to be treated like a rookie. That's what they said, not me, in spring training. So he worked them hard, but Lou Piniella said it was the right thing to do in hindsight because he made him a better team.
Yeah, thanks. One of the questions here is talking about coaching in the late 70s and early 80s. And I was going to ask if, I don't think Jason's here. I don't see his picture anymore.
No,
but,
I'm here.
Okay. Well, I was just, you can go ahead and ask Jason if you want. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Virdon, I know in the late 1970s, early 1980s, baseball had a recreational drug problem. How difficult was it to manage during that time, or was it an issue for you and your teams?
Well, at the time, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know I had a problem. But later on, I found out some of the things that happened would probably never happened if it hadn't have been for that. So I don't know how to answer that other than say I didn't realize it was there.
Interesting. Thank you.
So the same thing for me. The writers, reporters, fans seem to think that if I was walking around in the locker room that I would see a whole bunch of people taking steroids because it was an era in baseball where players were taking steroids. I never saw it. I saw guys that looked like they were working out with weights. I saw a lot of guys hit long home runs, but as a manager, you just try to manage each day to try to win the game the same way as when you're playing it. And those things that happen off the field have happened from the beginning of baseball on. I think for me, you just accept that, sometimes things won't be ideal and you just try to do your own job.
I didn't have to teach him anything.
I guess we can do two more questions here. Mark, did you have a question? I see you put some in the chat, but did you have a question, Mark?
I did not. No, I was just sharing a picture of some I was actually sharing a Facebook post from the Baseball Books Forum announcing that his birthday is June the 9th. With a few Pirates books.
All right.
So in advance, I'll just say happy birthday in a couple of weeks.
90 of them.
90. Oh my God. I'm catching up with you.
Yeah.
Good luck
I'm
with that.
not gonna wait on you.
Well, I told him that I've already hit 90. And so I told him he could be boss for 3 months now. Because he'll catch
fair.
up with me.
I think that's fair.
Hey, Mike, you're a Yankees fan. You have a question about Thurman Munson?
Yes. First off, I'm from the Columbus, Ohio chapter. This is an honor to talk with Mr. Virdon, to hear him speak tonight. So, yeah, I'm born in the Bronx. I've been a Yankee. Thurman Munson was my favorite player by far. Just wondering if Mr. Virdon has any memories of managing Thurman that stand out in his mind. Thank you.
I can't think of anything that I would improve on because I always thought he was the best and one of the better, complete, continual, good players. I always knew he was going to be there. He always knew he was going to play hard. And we won most of the time when he was playing.
Very, thank you.
Anybody else have anything else they want to add?
Could I ask a question? No.
How'd you feel about being traded for Enos Slaughter?
Well, it surprised me, but I never had a trade that didn't work out. I was always happy to be playing, and I would not get in anybody's way, make any comments.
I was going to point out today is May 17th, 65 years ago today. Bill and Shirley, you remember that?
No.
That was the date of the acquisition by the Pittsburgh Pirates of you. The trade, Sam, the trade from the Cardinals to the Pirates was 65 years ago today.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
I think they were playing in Philadelphia when Bill got the word, but Shirley's story about when she found out's a good one. I think she ought to tell it real quick.
I'll try to be quick about it. But I was at home with our daughter, Debbie, our oldest daughter, and we were in the hospital on this morning waiting to get her tonsils out. She just had in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, yes. And so I was trying to keep her entertained. At that time, they had these little radios that were hooked onto the bed, and you could throw a dime in and it'd play for 30 minutes, something like that. So I was trying to keep her entertained, so I did that. She was getting so restless before they came to get her. And so the first thing I heard when I turned that thing on was the 1955 Rookie of the Year in the National League has been traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I could not imagine it. And so I ran out in the hallway where my mother was talking to Harry Kimberlin, a former major leaguer who was retired and worked at the hospital. And I said, "Did you hear what they said on that radio?" And they said, "Been traded." And they said, yes. In fact, Harry had heard it and came up to tell my mother about it, but she didn't want to tell me because I was nervous enough having our Debbie have surgery. So that's how I found out that he was traded. And I think he found out after a ball game in the middle of like late night or early morning. And so he didn't want to call it, in the middle of the night to tell me, knowing that I was going to be at the hospital early. So anyway, that's how I found out he'd been traded to the Pirates. I thought we were going to stay in St. Louis. That was short-lived.
Who'd the Cardinals get?
Where?
Oh, they got Bobby Del Greco and
Dick Littlefield.
Yeah. Dick
You said Dick Littlefield and Bobby Del Greco. I may not be entirely correct on this, but I was a Cardinal fan when I didn't know Bill, obviously personally, but had followed his rookie season, was very encouraged and enthusiastic about that as a Cardinal fan, and I was still in. I guess I just graduated college, and it was my first year in the Air Force, but I was devastated by that. Is that Frank Lane had recently become the general manager of the Cardinals, and he had a reputation as Trader Lane. And if I recall correctly, and somebody can check this out and correct me if I'm wrong, but the trade for Del Greco, who Sam really never went on to have a very good career with the Cardinals. If I'm not mistaken, he hit 2 home runs for the Pirates the day before the trade. And I always thought that was sort of a catalyst for Lane making the deal, sort of an impulsive move, since in those days you didn't have all the research and the analytics that we do today. And I just always felt that Lane sort of got suckered in by if I recall correctly, again, I think Del Greco had 4 home runs that year. He had 2 of them the day before the trade.
Well, and Bill had started off poorly in spring training and the first part of the season. So his hitting wasn't, his fielding, I think, was fine, but
The good thing about the trade for the Verdens was they got to live in the Del Greco home in Pittsburgh.
we did. We had a furnished home to go to immediately, and we lived there for 3 years. So Bobby came back.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill, like I said when we first started, I was born in 71. So when it comes to coming into my own and becoming a big baseball fan, you really were the first Astros manager that I can really remember. Also, 2 of my favorite pitchers ever, J.R. Richard and Nolan Ryan, and you coached them both. Is there anything you want to say about J.R. and Nolan? I mean,
I'm glad I didn't have to hit off of them too much. They were both very, very dominant. I mean, their fastball was just out of the world. Curveballs would drop out of the and I sure glad I was on his team and not facing him.
Good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Bill first encountered Nolan Ryan when he was a manager in the Mets organization in New York. He also had him again down in Jacksonville, Florida, in the AAA affiliate the very next year when Bill was in his second year as a manager with the Mets. So he had known Nolan for quite a while, knew what he was capable of very early on.
All right.
I have one more question.
Okay. Good.
You played with Dick Stewart, Dr. Strangeglove. Was he as bad as they made him out to be, or is that more legend than?
Well, that was very appropriate word. Strange dog. He didn't have one. But he could hit.
They used to say he was like Michael Jackson. They both wore a glove for no reason at all.
I don't know.
He had an interesting wife too.
Oh.
Well, if nobody has anything else, Bill, it has been an honor to see you, to meet with you. David, the same. And I know all of us here at the chapter, I mean, we will probably cherish and remember this for a very long time. So, Bill, if you ever want to come back, just let us know. I mean, We'd love to hear you talk.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I didn't know that I was a part of this show.
Big part.
You're a co-star.
First time we've had Johnnie Smith on too.
Well, I want to thank all of you for giving us this time, Joe, and everybody else for this opportunity to highlight this remarkable baseball career, this remarkable baseball family. They love baseball. They have all these memories that they're just so fond of, and I'm just glad we're going to be able to share them sometime very soon.
And when's the book coming out?
It's due to the publisher by September 30th. I intend to have it done by the end of July and then tweak it over a month or so. But McFarland wants it by the 30th of September. I'm assuming there will be some copy editing taking place quite a bit after that. And I'm hoping that it'll be out before the start of the new season next year.
All right.
What's the name?
Can we get
The working title of the book, and I've shared this with Tal and Larry Dierker and Marty Appel and others, Kenny Hand. The working title of the book is Bill Virdon, I Guess I Did That. And
Beautiful.
To me, I think that's a very fitting, because Bill's uttered those words before when him and I first started sitting down and having these discussions. And I threw his record at him in high school and minors and in the majors. He would come back with, I guess I did that. And so I said, that's going to be the title of this book if I have anything to say about it. And McFarland didn't seem to be too keen on that, but I filled out a questionnaire last week and they asked me for what I thought would be a good title. And that's exactly what I told them again. So I hope it sticks. I think it's very fitting. I think it tells a pretty good story about the kind of person we're highlighting here.
Well, thank you.
Joe, you did a great job too, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Bill.
right.
Okay.
So, Maddie, we got time. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Bill. And happy early birthday. I'll be at Disney during your birthday, so happy birthday. So next up, we have Chris to talk about your Dawn. Not yonder, like I put it.
That's can you hear me?
Chris, yes.
Okay, let me share my screen, Joe.
One of the most interesting players in Astros history, I think. One of them. Your Dawn. So, take it away, Chris.
All right, can everybody see my screen with the chapter logo?
Yes.
Okay. My talk's about Jordan and kind of a generalized impact the DH has had on the game in recent history. And we're going to see if what we can do about projecting his future. I got started on this when I got to reminiscing about what AJ Hinch said when Jordan was called up. I wanted to get a little bit of a feel for Minute Maid before we put him out there. But he's going to have to play left field. He's not going to be the DH only. He's way too young for that, and we need to move our roster around a little bit. So from that, I got really three management concerns: roster flexibility, team performance, and then player development. So we're going to look at each one of those and see how Jordan has an effect on that. So, of course, roster flexibility, if you look at Jordan's career now, we're looking at him from before this season started, his under age 24 career. He had 357 plate appearances, and 94% of them were as the designated hitter. Well, why is that? Well, besides his injury issues, it's his fielding, really. And if you look at Fangraphs, it's kind of put together a way to scale the scouting number to a WAR, and basically anything 50 and above would be an everyday player, And below 50, you start getting to people who shouldn't be playing every day. And if you look at what they have as Jordan's numbers, he's pretty low on fielding, running, and his throwing arm. So that does present a flexibility issue in your roster with a guy who can't really field that well. So the next thing is, let's look at team performance. And so the question I came up with on that was, is it a problem to rely too much on one player as your designated hitter? Does that have an adverse impact on your offense? Well, if you look at the history of the designated hitter, you'll see this chart. This is teams that use one player more than 50% of the plate appearances. And the line on the red, the red line at the top, is the number of teams in the American League. And the one in the middle is half the teams, just so you can kind of get an idea. And so generally, about half the teams kind of relied on one guy as a designated hitter. When you look at a 75% threshold, you'll see about, on average, around 4 teams every year had that kind of usage. So what I looked for then is just for American League teams, because the National League the DH didn't really play that big of a role for the National League. So I found the batter who had the most DH plate appearances for each team, calling this the primary designated hitter. And then to try to measure team performance, I used runs scored. It was kind of the simplest thing and kind of the most direct offensive statistic that that was easy to measure. So if you look at a sample of the data, here's the what the Astros had from 2015 to 2019. You'll see the number we're really focusing on is this ratio, which is the percent of primary DH plate appearances that one player had. So we're going to measure that for every team for every season, and then we look at the runs scored. And now to do this, I use the American League average for that season. That way, as offenses change through the years, we had some kind of basis to compare. And then generally the number is just a percentage above that. So you look in 2017, the Astros were about 17.5% higher than average on the runs scored. So if that's the number we're looking for that we're going to plot. Now, if you had a graph, if you graph the data, it looks like this. That would mean that the offense is improving as the reliance on one designated hitter increases. Conversely, if you graph the data and it looks like this, then your offense improves when you use more than one guy as a designated hitter. And when you plot the data, you get this, which is pretty much as uncorrelated random plot as I could make up if I was going to make one up. So really, there's no correlation between focusing on one guy's designated hitter and then team performance. So let's look at the third item, which is is player development. This one's a little bit trickier for me to get a handle on.
That was good news.
So the question is his development inhibited if he's asked to DH too much early in his career, as Jordan is? So we're going to look at historical data and try to predict his future hitting performance and his longevity based on what others have done in the same circumstance. So for performance, I use the on-base percentage plus slugging. Longevity, I measured plate appearances. So I looked for batters under the age of 24 who had been a DH. And in this, I only considered American League hitters. The National League last year got to use the DH, but it really wasn't enough to impact the data for what I'm trying to accomplish here, which is predict the future. So when you sort it out, there's 477 players who met the criteria of being under the age of 24 who had a designated hitter plate appearance. I use 10% as kind of the cutoff because a lot of guys will DH like an Altuve as part of a half day off, but they're not really designated hitters per se. And of those 178, 143 of them played or had a plate appearance between the age of 24 and 34. So I looked at those next 10 years as my measure of a player's career. And then I compared these players' careers to everybody, National League and American League, except for pitchers and pinch hitters, because those were kind of special cases. And then to compare them, I put the players into 5 different groups. And these groupings were generally to get the number of batters in each group relatively equal. And you'll see that, for example, Group A, those players had between 10 and 15% of their under 24 plate appearances as a designated hitter, on up to Group E, 70% to 100%, which is a player like Jordan. So he's Group E is where he's at. So if we look at the baseline performance, the black line on the bottom is all the batters in the DH era from 73 to 2020, excluding pitchers and pinch hitters. The red line is what's Fangraphs defined as above average. So if you're on base plus slugging is above that, you're an above average hitter. For longevity, I indexed the age 24 at bats to 100 to make them all the lines comparable. And you'll see that by age 27, that player is peaked on his usage, and then it pretty much goes steadily down to the end of the great data that I looked at. So if we look at the groups, Group A, these are the top 6 members of this group. Their performance was, as you would expect, above the average because you're selecting designated hitters for their hitting ability. And their longevity, you see, it didn't peak near as high as the baseline, but it fell off at relatively the same rate. Group B, these are the top 6 from Group B. Their performance was generally above the average, and then it really jumped up, and that is pretty much solely the David Ortiz effect. He had some really big numbers late in his career. Their longevity, again, looks fairly similar to Group A. Group C had some pretty good players in Group C. They were pretty consistently above average hitters. And the curve shape is a little bit different, but they had a really good career length. Group D, you start getting into the players who are more hitter than defender. And there again, their performance was above average, but their longevity was really down pretty low. And then Group E, these are people who are the same group as Jordan is in. Their performance was somewhat above average, and their longevity wasn't very good either. So we're going to look at all these together. I realize it's kind of a spaghetti bowl, but that's how they look when you put them all in one place. But if you look at them numerically, kind of measure the difference between the two, you'll see that Group D, if players who had some defensive ability and could play in the field, had the most improvement over the baseline. And again, that's what Group D looked like. And then, of course, Jordan's group wasn't obviously not the worst, but not the best. They were kind of in the middle, and you can see they had a big dip there at 27, which impacted their overall score. If you look at longevity, again, you see most of the curves are the same except for Group C, and that's everyone was less than the baseline as far as for longevity, but Group C was pretty much almost the same. And again, that was the one that was kind of pretty much flat line until they get in the 30s. And then Jordan's group was down near the bottom as far as longevity. And again, that's what their graph looked like. So what can we conclude from this? Well, obviously we're going to agree that roster flexibility is reduced if you got a guy with poor defensive abilities. I'm not sure if the flexibility is equally reduced on the flip side. If you had a great defensive player and who was a poor offensive player, his playing time may not be enough to impact the team, but it definitely would impact the roster construction. So that doesn't mean you don't play Jordan. You do have some consideration for that. Team performance is not related to using one person, the DH, too much. It does have flexibility issues with the roster, but doesn't affect performance. The performance of the DHs as a group was as expected. It's better than the baseline, but then again, that's why they're hitting, because that's what their unique talent is. And it does show that their longevity is reduced from the baseline. Now that could be for a number of factors in a group of this size. Obviously, if you don't play offense, if your hitting starts to fade away, you're not going to be around for that much longer. And that is my analysis of what we think is going to happen to Jordan. It looks like he has a few good years left, but I don't know if I would bet on him as a long-term player. Any questions?
Let's see Group E again, the players.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The players in Group E, the top players.
Yeah, we can go back and look at that. Let me
Where's Edgar Martinez?
I'd have to look and see where he was. These groups are based on what they did under the age of 24. He may not have had enough.
He was a late bloomer, yeah.
He may have started late. I mean, Ohtani is in this group, the Group E, because really until this year, he hasn't. He was DH. 100% of his plate appearances was a DH, but he didn't have enough to be in the top 6. But he's in this group here too. So yeah, this is based on, again, it's kind of a weird cutoff because I tried to match with where Jordan was, and then we could kind of find where he sits, and then what would happen if we could project out what others have done in his similar situation.
So Chris, how would you compare Jordan with Fred McGriff? I mean, McGriff, borderline Hall of Fame player, crime dog, what do you think?
Well, he, some of these guys started, like Dickie Thon is in one of these groups, because you start off in the American League as a young player and then get traded. And so McGriff had to find a position to play, and he played first. But my understanding is he was not a great defensive first baseman, but he was a great hitter. So it's not, there's always a guy who's going to be better, but you look at this kind of group here, and none of these guys really stand out as somebody you would say was a long-term talent. Played a long career.
McGriff played a long time. Looks like I gotta say, Chris, looks like you're comparing apples and oranges, though. McGriff is the only one that had an outstanding career. And when you look at Jordan's stats, they're putting him in with DiMaggio and Williams and the number of RBIs and home runs. He isn't. I think sometimes you can't do stats. I think he's an anomaly, and he'll probably move to first base when Gurriel takes off if they don't renew his contract.
Well, that's to be seen. I mean, he may not work at first base, and so he may end up being a hitter only. And then if he may be the David Ortiz and plays 10 or 15 years or 20 years as a top flight hitter, and you make arrangements in your roster for him. I'm just saying others who have followed his path, it hasn't worked out long term for them. And of course, they're not the same quality of hitter, but it just doesn't, especially with his injury, leg issues, it's hard to bet on that as a long-term deal. I mean, that's what Ortiz, that's what he had to end up quitting, even though he had a long career, was his legs were so bad that even though he ended his career with a great season, he was done. And so
he was over 40.
He was 40, but yeah, but again, Jordan may be him. But Luis Ortiz played in the field quite a bit in between, and before he got to be almost a full-time DH later in his career.
Jordan legged out a triple last week. You see that?
Well, would he be in the major leagues without the designated hitter position?
Well, the Dodgers traded him away because they didn't think they had a position for him. So, but no, as long as he can hit, obviously he'll be playing. It's you're right. It's not a foolproof analysis of his future, but it puts him in some kind of, you can at least compare him to others who had obviously similar careers, and then we see where he goes. He's too young really to decide where he's going to be when he's 30, but at least you can see what others have done who fit the same pattern.
You know, as long as Dodger fans keep crying about Jordan, hey, I'm happy.
Now, Jordan has looked good running this year, so maybe his knee issues are resolved enough where he can play every day, or at least play DH every day. So there obviously he has a value, and if you look, at the WAR kind of numbers, that is really predominantly an offensive statistic, and there's, to measure a person's defensive value, it sometimes can be difficult and be kind of hard to quantify, whereas offensive statistics are fairly straightforward and easy to quantify. So, how bad does a guy have to be in the field where it really hurts your team? I don't know. I mean, you talk about those guys that we talked about earlier, like Dick Stewart, and then you talk about like Marv Throneberry. They played quite a bit, but they were noticeably bad defensive players. Greg Luzinski played left field. He wasn't supposed to be a very good defensive player. So there's a number of guys who don't play well defensively, but they make up for it with their offense. It's just how bad is he? And I guess someone else.
But it sounds like you're saying you really need to be playing both ways to increase your longevity.
It's almost if you have more value to add to the team, and so if he batted 280 instead of batting 320, would you play him every day? I mean, if he was averaging 20 home runs a year and not 40 home runs a year, that's a different value statistic. So if he starts to fade, there's nothing else to fall back on to say, well, he's still adding value to the team.
Also depends on the team. If you got the rest of your rosters hitting 220 that would replace him, even 280 is damn good.
Correct. I mean, and if somebody comes up 3 years from now who's everything he is defense, if we get a Mike Trout somehow who can play everywhere and excel,
and they come around every day.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying, but if you got a guy who could play, if you got another George Springer that came up and you said, well, gee, I got one place on the roster for either Jordan or a George Springer, that's the kind of thing you would have to, that's to be determined, but I'm just saying he's only really had the 1.5 year in 2019. So the whole thought about him may be different at the end of this year if he maintains some kind of 300 plus batting average, 30 home runs, 100 RBI, then you say, okay, we really have something here and not just a flash in the pan.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for Chris? Great presentation. I like it.
Oh, very well done.
Yes. All right. Just a reminder.
I have a quick question. How many folks do we have on the Bill Virdon session? How many participated?
I counted a grand total of 56 plus David. So that'd be 57.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Tal and his wife, that'd be 57. 58.
Biggest number I saw, I had 54 participants when I looked. So we had well over 50.
Yeah, we had 57, I think.
Terrific. Good job of publicizing it.
Hey, no problem, no problem. Just to remind everybody, I don't know, do we have time for the trivia contest? Tony? Where's Tony? Did
He
Tony leave?
left.
Tony left?
I don't know. We got 22 people right now.
Well, Tony was supposed to have oh, there he is. I just want to remind everybody that if you want to go to the game, we can send this out too, just to let Mike know.
Yeah, it's $55 a ticket, and had a couple more, Carl and Gary Schulte. I found Brian Lepley. So there was 5 more people come in. So we've got well over 20 people now. So we're definitely going. $55 a ticket. And Dierker said he wanted to go too. So another one, I didn't count him. Forgot about him.
Because I said possibly 4 for me. I don't know if my daughter.
That's counting you for 2.
Oh, just counting me for 2?
Yeah, we still got well over 20.
Okay, all right.
Good, thanks.
Well, we can do the trivia contest, and then that's pretty much it. Tony?
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, I won the last one. So it is my duty to do this trivia contest. So it'll be sweet and sour. I hope you bear with me here. There's an old.
How many questions?
Yeah, don't shoot the piano player. He's doing the best he can. So we got 10 questions, and let's see. And they're broken into some parts, but some are difficult, some are easy. We'll see. I've tried to put a little variety into this. Okay, basically 10 trivia questions. This is the first one. It's baseball sad lexicon. Celebrates the Chicago Cubs double play combination of the early century, Tinker, Evers, and Chance. A layup question is always, who was the third baseman for that infield? And do you know his connection to Texas? Okay. You want to think about some more? All right. This is question number 2. Another celebrated double play combination was O'Brien to Ryan to Goldberg. Where do they play and when? All right.
Who was the third baseman?
Or O'Brien to Ryan to Goldberg? Nope, that's not part of the question. Okay. Question number 3. This is Jeopardy. Houston was a charter member of the Texas League from 1988 to 1958, but produced only one hitter who led the league in batting. Who was that player?
Led the Texas League in batting or led?
Yes. He led the Texas League in batting. Only one Buffalo did it. Well, let me go then to question number 4. From 1907 through 1919, Ty Cobb led the American League in batting every year except for one season. Which batter interrupted that streak of being the leading batsman in the American League? You'll never ask me to do this again. Okay. Between 1918 and 1931, Babe Ruth led the American League in home runs every year except in 1922 and 1925. Which players surpassed the Babe in those years? Are you ready for question 6?
Oh, yeah.
Who were Moonlight Graham and Charlie Faust, and how are they connected?
Can you repeat that?
Who were Moonlight Graham, Charlie Faust, and how are they connected?
Moonlight Graham was Archibald Graham from the guy who played one game in 22, I believe.
Nope. Close though. But you're onto something. Question number 7. Which major league team hit the most home runs in a season, modern era, and which team hit the fewest? The next is something of a trick question. Kind of. Who was the last American yachtsman to manage a major league ball club? Question number 9. Can you identify any Hollywood stars who were at least a part owner of a major league ball club? And this is a question. How many major league ball players were later elected to Congress? Really, some of it's really obscure. How many major league ball players were later elected to the United States Congress? Okay. Joseph, shall I give everybody the answers?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Go right ahead, sir. Well, does anybody need a question repeated? Go ahead, Tony.
All right. First question was baseball sad lexicon, which celebrates Tinker to Everest a chance. Who was the third baseman? And that was Harry Steinfeld. It's just interesting to know, but in the late 1800s, he played for Houston in the Texas League, about 1895, 1896. But the answer was Harry Steinfeld. The second question was kind of a trick one. Another celebrate double play combination was O'Brien to Ryan to Goldberg. Where did they play and when? I apologize for this, but there was an MGA musical called Take Me Out to the Ball Game in the late 40s.
Sinatra, Gene Kelly, and
Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, Jules Munshin played this infield, who played for an avaricious 19th century baseball owner. It's kind of a fun movie, but it's just interesting that they kind of playing off the poem about Tigers to Everest chance.
where was their team? New
What's
York?
that?
What city was their team from?
I think it was one of the Eastern clubs. I'm not sure. It's really entertaining to see them go through the routine. Houston, the next question. Houston was a charter member of the Texas League, but produced only one hitter, one that led the Texas League in hitting.
Bob Boyd?
That player was Tris Speaker.
Chris Speaker.
In about 1907, I think. I think we only had one batting champion for Houston in 70 years in the Texas League. Led all the other categories but that, which is very odd. Next question was from 1907 through 1919, Ty Cobb led the American League in hitting in every year except one. Who interrupted his streak? It was Tris Speaker, who was playing for Cleveland. And he interrupted that streak in about 1916. I think he hit about 370, 388. Cobb hit about 378 that year.
Tony, according to Baseball Reference, Benny Koff won the batting title in 1914.
Well, was he playing with the Federal League?
Well, let's see. How do we figure that out? Yes.
God, was that?
Of course, yes. The Federal League, of course, took baseball to the Supreme Court, and the court held I guess the Federal League sued Major League Baseball, claiming it was an antitrust violation because they're keeping them out. And the Supreme Court eventually held that baseball was not subject to the antitrust laws because they were just playing exhibition games and they were not involved in interstate commerce. That reasoning has never withstood much analysis, but there you are. But Benny Koff was a great player in the Federal League. I'm not sure it's recognized today as a major league, but perhaps so. But next question, between 1918 and 1931, Babe Ruth led the American League in home runs every year except two. One was 1922. Ken Williams of St. Louis hit 39 home runs. In 1925, Bob Musial of the Yankees, his teammate, led the league with about 33. Both those years, Ruth was ill, so he didn't play at full capacity. I think he missed several games each season because he ate too much or did other abuses to his body. But it's an incredible streak, though. He was hitting home runs like nobody. His first year, 1918, he tied the league for home runs, hitting 11 while also pitching. So he had a remarkable career. The next question was, who were Moonlight Graham and Charlie Faust?
Field of Dreams.
Moonlight Graham. He pitched, he played right field for the New York Giants in 1905 for a half inning. And he became celebrated later in the movie Field of Dreams because of that fact. He played a half an inning in 1905 for the Giants and went back to the minor leagues, became a doctor, I believe, in North Carolina, became very famous there. But for some reason, the fellow who wrote Shoeless Joe was fascinated by this history and included him in that book. And so he became a prominent part of the movie with Kevin Costner. That was Moonlight Graham. The other player was Charlie Faust. And Charlie Faust also played for the Giants in 1911 and 1912. And if you look at he's got a biography on at the SABR project. And Faust was kind of a good luck omen for the Giants in those years. He couldn't bat, he couldn't pitch, he couldn't field, but he persuaded John McGraw, who they said was very superstitious, that if he just let him play on the ball club, the Giants would win the pennant. And they won the pennant in both years. And finally, McGraw allowed him to pitch a few innings at the end of the 1912 season. So they were both connected to John McGraw and the early New York Giants when baseball was not nearly as regimented as is today. You had these weird players coming along like Rube Waddell and people like that. And I think Charlie Faust eventually died in insane asylum. I think that's what McGraw did to him.
How do you spell his last name, Faust?
Faust, F-A-U-S-T.
Oh, and they wrote the opera about him?
That's right. He said,
I don't think that's the same Faust.
Oh, okay.
Faust. Faust of the opera, you know, good field, no hit.
Dave Schechter wrote the book about him for SABR.
Okay. Which major league team hit the most home runs in the season?
Twins.
Minnesota.
Twins, 2018.
19. They hit over 300 home runs. They hit 309, and the Yankees hit 307 that season. So the ball was really juiced up.
Who was that?
2019. Minnesota Twins, 300.
Twins. Okay, I had the year wrong.
Yeah. And the team that hit the fewest home runs,
08 White Sox.
1908 White Sox. They hit 3 home runs. They finished a game and a half out of first place. So it was really the dead ball era. If I would have asked Bill Virdon about the fact that the team that hit the fewest home runs in a season since we've gone to 15 clubs in each league were the Astros. In 1979, they hit 47 home runs and finished second. I don't know how they did it, but it was a miracle. But I think Andahar led the league in home runs for the.
They had J.R. Richard.
J.R. Richards, yeah. They had great pitching, but 47 home runs. It's hard to imagine these days, but it was ballpark too. The next question, a trick question. Who was the last American yachtsman to manage a major league ball club?
Ted Turner.
Ted Turner, yes. Turner managed the Braves for one game in 1977 because the rest of his club was awful. He didn't like his managers. But earlier that year, I believe he participated and won the America's Cup Yachting Championship. I think he was lost at sea for a while. Maybe he still is. But I thought that was interesting that he managed.
The commissioner made him quit managing after the one game. He wouldn't let him come back.
Well, it was kind of a stunt, but he is listed in the official baseball records as a manager. It's interesting. My next question, can you identify any Hollywood stars to release a part owner of a major league ball club?
Bing Crosby.
I came up with Bing Crosby.
Pirates.
Gene Autry.
Gene Autry.
Gene Autry, yeah. The Angels.
And Danny Kaye. It's kind of the Seattle club for a while.
Did Bob Hope ever?
What's that?
Did Bob Hope do it with the Indians?
He did it with the Indians, yes.
Okay.
Hope.
Danny Kaye had.
Seattle. I think he was man of the Seattle Pilots for a while. He really loved baseball.
So that's 4? Yeah. Bob Hope, Gene Autry, Bing Crosby. Okay.
And question was, how many major league players were elected to Congress?
Jim Bunning.
Jim Bunning, Vinegar Ben Mizell, who pitched for the Cardinals and the Buffs, and then was elected to the House from South Carolina. And an obscure guy called Pi Schwert, Schwert. He was elected to the Congress, but in his early years, 1914, 15, he played for the New York Highlanders. But that didn't keep him out of the Congress. So those are the only three players that I recognize as being elected to the Hall, to the.
Hey, Tony?
Yeah.
On Evan Costello, who's on first? Who was the third baseman?
Who's
No,
on?
he was on first.
Who
I don't
played
know.
third?
I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know.
What's on? Oh God, thank you. So anyway, those are the questions. I guess I'll ask. How many people got? Well, let's see, 10. I got 10 questions correct.
Well, how many total answers you got here?
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 4 is 16 and 3. I've got.
If you got one of the
19.
congressmen, how many points do you get?
3. I mean, if you get all,
If you just get one.
it still counts. You got a point.
One for Jim Bunning and one for Ben Crosby.
Well, the question was how many?
So 19 total? Is that what you counted?
That's what I've got. Yeah.
How many congressmen?
There were
There
three he
number
came up
for
with.
10 was 3.
That was the question.
4 movie stars. I got 6 points. Anybody beat that?
Did anybody get O'Brien to Ryan to Gilbert?
I did.
Okay, good. Okay, Mike. That's great.
Actually, that makes 7 points. Excuse me. I forgot
Okay.
that.
Did anybody get the tree speaker questions?
Nope. Neither one of them.
I got speaker as the batting title guy.
Okay, that's good. You got a point there. And the Babe Ruth home run questions, really kind of obscure, but.
I got that one.
Oh, good. Great. Moonlight Graham and Charlie Faust?
I got Faust.
Okay.
Got Field of Dreams.
That's it. That'll count. That'll count.
Doesn't count?
Sure. You've got the movie. Yeah. I would grade generously on this.
Okay. Well, then I got that too.
The Major League home run leaders?
Got the leaders.
Well,
I
the team
got the
leaders.
Twins. I got the Twins and the White Sox.
Well, good. All right. The really bizarre Ted Turner question.
I got that.
Wow. Okay, Mike. That's really impressive. And Hollywood stars who wanted we identified 4 Hollywood stars who at least were part owners of a baseball club. So you get one for whatever you got.
I got Hope and Crosby. That was it.
I got Bing. Forgot about Autry.
I had 3
I
of
didn't
them.
know about Open K.
Yeah, I forgot about Autry too.
And the last one, how many major leaguers were elected to Congress? The total number is 3. But if you got one, there's 1 point for each one you got.
I got Bunning.
Okay.
Mizell.
And Mizell.
I got those two, and I guessed the number 3.
Okay.
That's 5.5.
Okay.
So who's the winner here?
Well, how many people got 5 answers? 5 points. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
10?
Who got 6? Mike?
Yeah, I got 7.
7 for Mike.
Mike's champ.
Mike, you are the winner.
Whoopee.
So I think You'll get to write the first trivia contest when we're back face to face in July, right? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, if we're going to the Skeeters game in June, I guess.
So Mike is the winner.
All right, Mike, I will gladly hand the tools of ignorance over to you.
Appreciate it.
Hey Tony, you emailed me the questions. Can you email me the answers too? I'm gonna
Yeah,
put
I
some on the
will.
website. I'm gonna put some on the website for you.
I will. I'll do that.
All right. Thank you all for making the meeting tonight a little bit easier for me.
Wesley, you going to the Skeeters game?
I don't know yet. You need to know about what today or tomorrow.
Oh, by about 3 weeks, probably a week before the game. How about you,
Oh,
Winnie
okay.
Franny? You going to the game? She's muted, but I think she said yes.
Mike, I got a question. When you get a chance.
Go ahead. Third base.
I was telling my wife, I can't remember the last time I wrote a check. So I don't really have checks. Got like PayPal or something. What do you want me?
Good question.
Venmo or something?
I don't know. I'll put you on will call and you go up and pay for them. How's that?
Or maybe I'll just have my wife. I think my wife has a check. I'll just.
By the way, has anybody had any troubles with the ticket situation with the Astros? In other words, you have to get them on your phone and show up with them. Has it worked like a charm for everybody?
It hadn't been as hard as I thought it was. It's just like forwarding tickets. If you had them in your season ticket count before, sending them to people.
Yeah.
You just go over there and click them and email them. I haven't received any.
Yeah.
I think you get like a scan code.
You do.
For each ticket.
Get a barcode.
We had tickets for Mother's Day, and somehow they disappeared from my working phone. So I had to go up to. They have a special booth at the game where you can get replacements. It's an agonizing process, but still they have. Not everybody is adept at this stuff as Mike is.
And I got an email today for season ticket holders. They're letting all the tickets go for the rest of the year now.
Oh.
They had a phase 1 where you could opt out or keep it in the phase 2, but I think they're opening up the ballpark for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yes, I read about that. It's going to be 100% starting with the next homestand.
Mm-hmm.
We should be also very grateful for the vaccine and what it's done for everybody. It's really kind of a miracle when you look at what's happened in other countries.
I think they're also dropping the mask requirement.
Well,
Governor did.
We had a guy who sat down next to us at the Astro game. He was from Canada, and he says he may not get a injection in Canada for 5 or 6 weeks yet. Their system there is so difficult to manage. So he told him, "Hey, you hang around Houston, you get one at the ballpark." So can't believe it. It's
Go down to Barter. You'll get one next week.
Oh yeah, it's great.
All right, everybody.
Joe. Thank you, everybody.
Good meeting.
Thank you.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for making it easier. We'll see you at the ballpark in June, hopefully.
You bet.
All
Good to see
right.
Bill Virdon.
Face to face.
Yeah, if not, we'll see you face to face at in July, back at Spaghetti West.
Okay.
What was the
Good.
July date again? What was the July date again?
Second Monday. We would have done a third
July,
Monday, but
July.
they were on a road game.
He's talking about July, right, John?
Yes,
That's the third Monday.
Third Monday in July.
third Monday in July. Okay.
I'm gonna talk with Bob. Maybe we can keep the Zoom thing going a little bit for people who can't come. So we'll see. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Joe.
Good
Night.
Good night.
Night.
I'll send you a check, Mike. I'll figure out some. Oh, he left. All right. That's it. See you later, Tal.